This is a BabyJogger City Mini 4W or 4-wheel, and today we're going to talk about some problems that can occur with the front wheels. The most common of which is either that the wheels begin to waver or wobble as you go at speed, or they have a feeling as though they lock to one side. Both of these problems essentially have the same root cause, and that's that through a lack of maintenance usually, where one does not lubricate the axle as it goes into the locking mechanism. The axle has a tendency to wear down and widen the channel that it goes into, thus causing the wheel not to sit tightly any longer. So, for this reason, it's very good to regularly lubricate these mechanisms, but if you are having trouble with this, what I would recommend first is that you oil up the inside of this mechanism. You can just flip the stroller over and then use a spray grease. In this case I have a generic one, but WD-40 is essentially the standard you're looking for, something that works like WD-40. And then if the problem is very pronounced, you're going to want to use a thicker grease on the axle and the pad here. I have here food industry grease, but you can also use a silicone putty. And the cool thing about those types of grease is that because they're kind of thick and they're not incredibly slippery, they provide a certain amount of resistance between the wheel and the locking mechanism itself. So you want to put that in and give it a few rotations so that it spreads itself around properly. If you still have these wheels a bit too wobbly, then it might be possible for you to find a butterfly washer that will fit between the wheel fork itself and the locking mechanism. This can increase the pressure and thus keep the wheel from wobbling. Or it might be necessary to replace some of the parts, and it is possible to replace parts both from the locking mechanism itself as from the fork of the wheel. But in most cases, if you apply a thicker grease and you oil up the mechanism and keep it working properly, you won't have this wobbly or locking problem with the front wheels. We are going to put up some videos shortly that show the disassembly of the locking mechanism for the fork itself, as well as the locking of the swivel wheel. So this will help you look to see which parts are damaged on your stroller and which ones you want to replace. There are a few other problems that can of course occur with the front wheels that I'll just touch on briefly. If you have trouble that the wheel itself does not sit tightly in the fork, then that means some of the elements here, in some models there's ball bearings, in others there's not, but some of the elements here might be worn down, and you're going to need to take that apart and replace them or use generic things like washers in order to get the wheel to sit tightly again. Another one might be that one of the front wheels does not actually meet the ground and sits a little bit up and spins freely while you drive it. In most cases, unfortunately, with this, I've found that the problem exists higher up on the chassis itself and has to do with some of the bars and elements of the chassis being bent and thus causing the front end not to sit tightly on the ground. But in any case, that's sort of a brief overview of some of the problems you can have with the front wheels on this stroller. We hope this video has been helpful. If it has been, we ask you to subscribe, as it helps us continue making videos in the future. Thank you.